But it had to do with legalization of heroin. It wasn't to make it available. It was to merely make it legal for me as a physician to prescribe it to somebody who had intractable pain, that had cancer, and was not responding to morphine. Now, does that sound like so much to ask? And yet, that vote came up, and there was about 20% of the members of Congress that were willing to vote to allow the physician to give the heroin to a dying cancer patient. And their explanation to me was, well, I don't think I could explain it back home. It might be that I won't get easily reelected if it looks like I'm soft on drugs, as he went off to his next cocktail party. No, there's something wrong with the system. We do need a few more people of courage in the U.S. Congress. But who should we blame? The U.S. Congress? Partially. Who else should we blame? You and I, because we don't do enough to make sure the right people are over there and that we vote for the right people for the presidency and the Congress as well. What have the drug laws done in this country as far as corruption goes? Believe me, there is a lot more corruption in government, whether you're dealing with the CIA, third world terrorist nations. It's a gold mine for people who want to raise money in the underground government in order to finance projects that they can't get legitimately. It is very clear that the CIA has been very much involved with drug dealings. The CIA was very much involved in the Iran-Contra scandals. I'm not making the stories. We saw it on television. They were hauling down weapons and drugs back. And the CIA and government officials were closing their eyes, fighting a war which was technically illegal, selling weapons to the Ayatollah in order to pursue these political designs. At the same time, they're using the CIA and the FBI to spy on us to find out whether we support the Sandinistas or the freedom fighters. It's a situation that I think deserves serious attention. Quite frankly, I'm not quite sure that we're going to have 5, 10, or 15 more years to deal with the principles and the concept of freedom, because I think time is running short, and we know that if zero tolerance gets out of hand, then we're in big trouble, because the confiscation, the intrusion, and the violation of our liberty is quite violent today. It was not too long ago I heard a story. I was out in the state of Washington. They heard of a man that thought he may have drugs in his house. They approached the house, they broke the door down. He was sitting there. He didn't even try to escape. He was sitting there watching his television. He had an automatic selector there, ready to switch a channel. And after they killed him, they realized that he didn't even have a gun. That's what's happening in America today. And I believe it's time that we do something. The believers in liberties, the principles of this country, that we stand up for something. Stand up and say, we've had enough of this. We've had too much of big government. It's time that we curtail the power of government rather than the government curtailing our freedom. Right. You know, it's rather amazing to me that they can't see that the drug laws don't work. Prohibition doesn't work, and the war on drugs hasn't worked. And yet they persist. But I think one of the best examples to prove the fallacy of the drug law is the fact that in our prisons, we still have drugs. Isn't that rather amazing? We lock people up for using drugs. We put them in prison, put bars around them, fences around them, guards around them, and there are more drugs in the prison than any place else in the country. It's an absolute proof that the laws just don't work, and it tends to corrupt once the price is outrageously high, as it is with drugs. But what about the police and the courts? There's no doubt about it, how much is involved. Nobody knows exactly how much, but we do know that it is involved. I had a staff member of mine that went to work in a governor's race. It was a Republican governor's race, and he brought all the district attorneys together in that particular state to discuss the crime issue, because they took a poll and they found out people's number one concern, crime in the streets. So in quiet, in secret, not in public, they discussed it, and the conclusion was of the law enforcement officers was that you couldn't possibly do anything with the crime in the streets until you legalize drugs. Of course, this was very quiet behind the scenes. And then they concluded and they said, that would never happen because there's too many with their hands out receiving too much. And on we go. We continue with the drug laws. The sadness about it is I deal with so many conservative, very decent people who have, they're well-intended, but they don't see the difference. They do not realize it, and I tell this to their face, say, inadvertently, with your good intentions of trying to improve society as you see it, that you are inadvertently the ally of the drug dealer. If we want to get rid of the drug dealer, let's get rid of the drug dealer by getting rid of all the drug laws. The drug dealer is out of business overnight. If you take a national poll, actually today people are very concerned about drugs. I personally have a concern about drugs, but that's my business, my concern about my drugs and what I think should be done and what I should do with my children and how much wine I should drink at night. That's all my business. But I think that we do have a drug problem in the country. And I've seen some tragedies. I've seen my patients come in. I've seen some very sick babies born. And therefore, I have a healthy respect for the danger of drugs. But I have a healthy respect for the danger of nicotine and alcohol just as much as the hard drugs. So people are aware of this, and they are very concerned about the danger of drugs, but their bigger concern is the danger to children. And we have to accept that. Children so often